Welcome. So we're going to be talking about data science in this class since the class is called Advanced Data Science. But to begin, I'd like to start with some definitions. And so data science often gets used alongside the phrases machine learning and artificial intelligence. And what I'd like to do to start things off, to get a sense of what this class will be about, is to discuss the differences and the similarities, the overlap between machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence. And beyond giving the definitions of these three interrelated concepts, I also want to hint at what's possible. What can we do with the new advances that we have in these fields? Here is an attempt to create a Venn diagram of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and data science. Data science, in some ways, is the most fundamental of these three fields. It is about understanding the data that we have, and many of the approaches that we use are very data hungry. They are completely impossible without data science. Part of machine learning that isn't in data science, however, is some of the more theoretical stuff that is not very useful yet, but in the past has led to useful things that are very widely used today. So some of the theoretical analyses of machine learning algorithms which have provided things like support vector machines are still very much active areas of research within machine learning, but haven't made their way into data science, but that could change in the future. Similarly, there are some very basic aspects of data science that are rather ignored by practitioners within machine learning. And so things like just getting your hands on data and the socio-technical challenges of getting data in a usable state often falls under data science and is ignored by machine learning researchers. The third sub-area is artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is often the ambition that both data science and machine learning strives for. And so artificial intelligence often defines the problems that we want to solve using machine learning and/or data. There are aspects of artificial intelligence that don't interact with machine learning or data science. These are often called good old-fashioned artificial intelligence, or GOFI. We won't be talking about them much, but if you take a more traditional artificial intelligence class, you'll certainly see them. Where you have intersection between artificial intelligence and machine learning are on things like reinforcement learning or deep reinforcement learning, where you're trying to get an agent in a world to follow some goals. Applications of this intersection of machine learning and artificial intelligence include things like conversational bots or driverless cars. And in those situations, those are data-hungry applications. You need a lot of text data to build a chatbot, and you need a lot of driver data to build a driverless car. And that is data science. Understanding the data, getting the data, and putting it into an algorithm that can then be used in a more traditional machine learning pipeline and then applied to an artificial intelligence goal. One thing that I would like to be really clear about is that we are a long way from what most computer scientists consider true artificial intelligence. True artificial intelligence can be defined in a variety of ways. One of the most common and best known applications of AI that would mean that AI has truly been successful is called the Turing Test, where you have an algorithm that pretends to be human and that fools human interrogators. We are nowhere near that, and I don't suspect that we'll be there anytime in the next 20 to 50 years. Although I am pessimistic about our ability to get to true AI in the near future, I am very excited about what we're able to do at the foundations. We can do a lot of interesting stuff thanks to data science. This is because we have more data than we know what to do with. We have this because people are going out and buying things online and giving their opinions about how good those products are. This allows us to better understand what people like, and we can understand what kinds of people are out there and the patterns in their life that cause them to buy certain things. This allows companies like Amazon to figure out, oh, you're going through a pregnancy. You will need this now, and then in 9 months you'll need these other products. And this sounds a little bit creepy, a little bit big brothery, but it helps you have have a more efficient interaction with the company because your data are like other people's data. Another form of data is the intellectual record of society. And so scientists are publishing documents, authors are writing books, musicians are creating music. All of this is being recorded digitally, and you can access it through libraries, through your Kindle, through the internet, and so can algorithms. And from this we can gain an understanding from a historical perspective that is much deeper, much more comprehensive than what was possible through the work of a traditional historian who could only read what they could in the time span of a PhD dissertation and with their 2 eyeballs. And we ourselves are data. So we are made up of deoxyribonucleic acid. This forms a sequence of 4 characters, and that is information. That is data. Those data can be analyzed by a computer to help us understand whether we're likely to get sick, and that interacts with our medical record, which is itself, again, data. In addition to our own genetic material and our medical history, another source of data from ourselves are the chemical reactions going on inside of our brains. And so our brains are generating data as we process the information in the world around us, and we form decisions about what we're going to do. This can be read through functional magnetic resonance imaging. It can be read through electrical conductivity pads on our scalp, and we can use this to understand how the information in the world around us affects our own brain and our own decision making. And in addition to all that serious stuff, when you waste time on Facebook and argue with your uncle about politics, that too is generating data. It's helping us understand how we form relationships, how we lie to each other, how we get close to someone, what happens when romantic relationships begin or end. All of that is also data and helps us better understand the human experience. And there are large economic incentives for us to harness this data and to make sense of it. Companies rise and fall based on their stock price, and people take advantage of that information through stock markets. And the more information you have, the more efficiently these markets function, and as an individual you can make a lot of money, but our society functions better if our markets function efficiently. And our markets function efficiently when information is widely disseminated and can be acted upon by wise and prudent investors. Data science allows us to take a variety of information from various sources, mandatory reporting by companies, to news reports, to stock price information, to generate actionable information. We have all of this data out there, but it is useless to humans in its raw form. We need algorithms to process these data efficiently and to do something useful with them. The standard ways of using these data is to recreate human decisions. We'll talk about a variety of algorithms to do this. To begin with, you have a human that has sorted emails into 2 sets. That human thus provides what is called a training set. That training set is then put into an algorithm. That algorithm extracts features. Features that say whether an email is spam or not. These features allow that algorithm to replicate what the original human did. And so you now have a computer algorithm that can output, given an input email, whether it is spam or not. This is called classification. The algorithm is called a classifier. And this is one of the primary contributions of machine learning. This is being used everywhere for a variety of applications in just about any industry that you can think of. And usually when people are talking about artificial intelligence, they don't mean something fancy like a self-driving car or an AlphaGo system. They're usually talking about something much more boring or monotonous, something like a classifier, a bread and butter machine learning algorithm that is fueled by the data provided by data science and analyzed by data science. One of the things that we'll spend a lot of time on in this class is taking a classifier and showing it to a human. Oftentimes you have a classifier and you need to convince your boss or your board that yes, we have done a good job building the system, we can now put it out into the wild and do exciting things with it. That too is a part of data science, and one of the things we'll spend a lot of time on in this course, understanding machine learning algorithms and being able to communicate what they're doing effectively. Where we move from machine learning to artificial intelligence is putting many machine learning algorithms together to do exciting tasks. Just to give two examples from one company, Google's AlphaGo and Google's self-driving car company Waymo have recently had a great success at taking large amounts of human history, whether it's in the form of Go games or in the form of people driving a car, and using that to create systems that can interact with the world in new and novel ways, and expanding beyond the training set that the algorithm was initially given. Both of these applications use a form of machine learning called reinforcement learning, where you have an agent interacting with an environment and doing exciting things in the world. There have been a lot of passionate arguments about how quickly and how much artificial intelligence will impact society. The standard failure mode of predictions about the future is that people overestimate the impacts of technology in the short term and underestimate the impacts of technology in the long term. I think we're going to see something similar with artificial intelligence. We'll talk a lot about this at the end of this course. And one of the things that practitioners of data science need to be aware of is the social impacts and the ethical decisions that they need to make while dealing with the very important resource of data. Another thing that we'll talk about is people making predictions about how technology will influence society. Imagine society to be static, and they do not fully appreciate how technology will interact with society and change society, and how a different society will make use of technological innovations. In addition to a need to be realistic as we discuss the societal implications of artificial intelligence and data science and machine learning, we also need to be realistic about what data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning can actually achieve. One of the things that I hope that we'll get out of this class is the weaknesses and the prerequisites of machine learning and data science algorithms. Solving a task with data science or machine learning often requires good data. If you're not willing to invest in data, you're not going to have a good solution. And moreover, good data often requires people to generate the data or collect the data. Often one of the goals of using machine learning or data science is to automate or replace workers. This gives data science a bad reputation as something that would kill jobs. But if you talk to an honest data scientist, they will tell you that you need a lot of people to build a successful system. And those people aren't just programmers. You need people generating the data, you need people collecting the data, you need people vetting the data. Sometimes data science ends up generating more jobs than are replaced, but that's a good thing because these jobs are more interesting and more rewarding. But data is not all you need. You also need expertise in using this data effectively. And thus you're combining data scientists who generate the data with data scientists or computer scientists with a machine learning background to apply algorithms to the data. But having the data and a team of data science professionals to generate the data is not enough. You then need someone who can apply algorithms to that data. And that person can be a data scientist, that could be a computer scientist with machine learning background. And even though it's getting easier and easier to use machine learning tools, oftentimes you need a good amount of expertise to use them effectively. Another issue is that these applications that require good data and good algorithms also need a lot of computer hardware. Beyond the physical hardware, an often overlooked issue is that you need to be able to explain and advocate for your solution. It's not just enough to create it. You need to convince other people that it will work effectively, that it will work in an ethical manner, and that it will continue to work for years to come. This requires you to be able to explain it, you need to be able to advocate for it, and you need to be able to maintain it. As a result, you don't always want to use the most complicated algorithms possible to solve your problems. Often you want something that is more explainable, even if it means sacrificing some performance. The bottom line is that creating this pipeline, going from data science resources and collection of data to machine learning algorithms to artificial intelligence problems, is hard, but it's also very rewarding. If you want to shape the future, data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence is one of the main ways that we'll be creating the future and explaining what the future will be like today.